It's been 2 years since I created the full CS2 skin creation tutorial. So now with the release of Blender 5, I decided to treat you guys with a new quick tutorial using the new Blender version. And by quick, I mean quick. I'll try to cover all the basics of CS2 skin creation in this video, and I'll do it in less than 20 minutes. However, if after watching this video you feel that you need more in-depth take of the skin creation process, then go back to my old tutorial because it's still relevant. Okay, we don't have much time, so let's get to it. Before we begin, we need to download the CS2 weapon models, which can be found in this site, which can also be reached from the CS2 workshop page. Scroll down to the resources and downloads page, and under downloads, choose the entry that says new CS2 weapon models. Download it to the folder of your choosing and extract the zip file. Next, let's get Blender 5. If you haven't done so already, head to blender.org and go to download and click on download Blender. Install it and open it. Let's quickly set up the environment by going to edit, preferences. Go to system and choose the tab that contains your GPU card. If you don't have a GPU, then just skip this step and choose CPU later. Now go to the add-ons section and in the search type Node Wrangler and select the Node Wrangler add-on. Close the preferences dialog and in the right panel choose the render tab and change the render engine from Eevee to Cycles. If you have a GPU, then change the device to GPU compute, otherwise leave the CPU entry, but know that in your case rendering will take much more time. Now we're ready to begin the actual work. Remove the default cube and go to File, Import and choose Wavefront. Go to the folder that contains the model of your weapon and import it. For me, I'll be demonstrating the process with the Glock. Currently, the Glock has no texture or material, so we need to create one. And this texture will be the skin that we'll end up submitting. In order to create textures in Blender, we go to the Shading tab. To assign a material to the model, you can either use the default material that comes with the new Blender session, or you can create a new one. I'll use the one that already exists. The little windows we see here are called nodes, and we build our textures using these nodes. The node on the right is the output node. Whatever is plugged in this node will be displayed on our model. And the node on the left is called a shader, which defines the properties of the texture. One of these properties is the base color. Let's change it to some dark gray. This will be the main color of the skin, but of course leaving it like that would suck. So let's see how we can paint the model with more colors. For that, let's head to the Texture Paint tab. I've already created a video that talks about the basics of texture painting, and I strongly suggest that you watch it. That's why I'll go quickly over what we're doing here. In order to paint, we'll create an image, and we can create one using the texture slots section over here. So let's click on it, click on the plus sign, and choose base color. You can change the name if you want, but for me, I'll keep it as it is. The resolution for CS2 skins should be 4096 by 4096, so that's what I'll set here. And I'll set the color to be transparent by setting the alpha to 0 and click Add. If the model disappears, that means you're in the solid mode view. Change it to Material Preview and it will come back. The model now is black because in the Shading tab, the new image we created is now plugged into the base color. We'll go back to this later. Now I'll paint two yellow or orange stripes around the end of the barrel here. So I'll change the white color to whatever I want. Then I'll change the stroke from space to line to get perfect stripes. In the fall off section, I'll set the brush to be constant and uncheck the normal fall off checkbox. And finally, in order to paint at both sides of the gun at the same time, I'll uncheck the checkboxes of the options section. Now we can start painting. But if we do that now, then with every paint stroke, I'll also be painting the insides of the gun. We can prevent that by limiting the painting only to the faces of the model that we select. So to do that, press on this button here called Paint Mask. Now the unselected faces get grayed out, which currently is all the model since we have no faces selected. We can select the faces we want by going to Edit Mode, change the selection to Faces and start selecting. You can either select using the left mouse button or by hovering over a face and pressing L, which would select all connected faces. However, the CS2 models are notoriously known for being problematic when it comes to selecting faces, since there are many faces disconnected at weird places. To fix that, you can press A to select all faces, then M to merge the faces, and in the dialog choose by distance, and in the dialog below choose sharp edges. Now if I press L, all connected faces will be selected. If you want to go back to the old behavior, you can simply change the delimit below from seam to sharp. So now I'll select these areas, which are more than what we want, but that's okay because now I'm making sure that I won't paint the insides of the Glock. Press tab to go back to paint mode. I'll press on the X-axis here to make sure I'm perfectly facing the model. I'll resize my brush, press with the left mouse button and start dragging to the endpoint and release. And now we have the two stripes that we wanted. When you draw on an image, never forget to save the image. It's not enough to save the Blender session. If you don't save the image as well, you will lose your work. Now I'll go back to the shading tab. I want to change the black color to the gray one we chose in the beginning, since Valve specify in their official documentation that the colors shouldn't be too dark or too bright. So no fully black or fully white colors are allowed. I'll disconnect the base color image and put it over here. I'll press Shift A to open the selection menu, which contains all the available nodes that I can use. I'll go to the color section and choose Mix Color. I'll connect the alpha of the image to the factor of the mix node and the color of the image to field B. This tells the mix node, wherever there is any color in the image, choose the colors in field B, otherwise choose color A. So if I plug the mix color in the color of the shader, this is what I'll get. So I'll replace the color in field A with the gray color of the shader by copying the gray and pasting it in field A. And now I can connect the mix node and get the correct colors. Lovely! Now I'm going to add some dotted bumps to my skin to make it more textured. To do something like that, I'll press Shift A, go to Texture and choose Voronoi. And if I press Ctrl T with the Voronoi node selected, I'll get two more nodes that will help control the texture. The Node Wrangler add-on we added in the beginning allows this shortcut to work. I'll press Shift A again and go to Color and choose Color Ramp. One of the changes that came with Blender 5 is that the Color Ramp node moved to the Color section in the selection menu. Anyway, I'll connect the distance of the Voronoi to the Ramp node. As I said, we're adding the dots as bumps, so let's create a bump node which can be found in the displacement section. Connect the color ramp to the height of the bump and connect the bump to the normal. And nothing much happened because in Blender 5, by default, the distance field of the bump is set to a very low value. I'll set it to 1, and now we can see the Glock looking like someone hammered it like it owes him money. But we said that we want dots, not whatever this is. In order to do that, let's play around with the settings of the new nodes. Let's flip the colors of the color ramp by pressing on this arrow and selecting Flip Color Ramp. Now change the texture coordinate node to UV and set the randomness of the Voronoi to 0. I'll increase the scale until I see something like this. And finally, I'll drag the black pointer of the ramp node to the left until I get my dots. Okay, so we have the dots now, but how about we restrict the dots only to the orange parts? We can do so using the same method we followed for the colors. Let's create a new mix color node and connect the color of the ramp to field B, and connect the alpha of the color image to the factor. And finally connect the result of the mix node to the height of the bump, and bingo! But now the rest of the skin seems too empty. Let's give it some texture that would make it look a bit scratched. I'll press Shift A and go to Texture, and this time we'll choose Noise Texture. I'll connect the same mapping node to the Noise Texture as well and create a new Color Ramp node. Connect the Noise node to the ramp and connect the ramp node to field A of the Mix node. So now, because we connected the ramp node to field A, we have the new texture applied outside the colored area. Now I'll increase the scale of the noise texture and will increase the distortion field a little bit. The effect is too strong, so I can soften it by changing the black pointer of the ramp node to a very light gray close to white. I will also drag the right pointer towards the left until I'm satisfied with the result. Okay, now I'm satisfied and my life is complete. So what else can we add to our skin? Oh, let's draw some bumps. The way we drew colors earlier with the orange stripes, we can also draw bumps. Let's go to the Texture Paint tab and expand the Texture Slots section. Click on the plus sign and this time choose Bump. I'll leave everything as it is and choose Add. And now if we go back to the Shading tab, we'll see two new nodes were added, which are another image node connected to a new bump node. Let's drag them over here and connect the output of the new bump to the normal input of the old one. This will make sure that whatever bump we draw on the new image, it will be added to the existing bumps of the other textures. Of course, nothing changed now because the image is still empty, or rather filled with 50% gray, which means there are no bumps. Of course, I'll set the distance to 1 again to get a stronger bump effect. So let's go back to the Texture Paint tab again. I'll engrave some large dots in a line at the sides, so I'll change the color to black. And we'll set the fall off to something smooth. And we'll increase the spacing to something like 250 so that the line won't be continuous. I will also select only the top part of the gun. I'll adjust the radius of the brush and start drawing. If I press Alt after the left mouse button, I can lock the angle of the line and get a perfectly straight line. And of course, we save this image as well. Alright, I guess we can call this an adequate skin. Now we need to export it so that we can view it in the game. For that, let's go back to the Shading tab again and create a new image node by pressing Shift A and choosing Image Texture. Click New and name it Bake Result or whatever. Resolution is 4096 by 4096 and the color is transparent, and click New Image. So now we've just created the image on which we'll bake our textures. Baking is turning the textures of the 3D model into 2D maps depending on the UV sheet of the weapon. No time to explain further because of my time limit, so go to the UV editing tab as I did, and in the right panel go to the render tab and expand the bake section. For this video, I'll just bake the albedo map, which contains the colors of the texture, and the normal map, which contains the bump information. But in general, it's highly advisable to at least bake the roughness map as well. But since I haven't played with the roughness of my texture, I'll skip baking a roughness map. Anyway, now I'll bake the albedo map, which can be done by changing the bake type to diffuse and unchecking the direct and indirect checkboxes. Only keep the color. Go down a bit further and set the size to something like 5 pixels and hit the bake button. Our albedo map is now ready and it only contains the colors and nothing else. Save the image as a TGA file because that's the file format Valve requires for CS2 skins. And in our final act in Blender 5, let's bake the normal map by changing the bake type to normal and click Bake. Again, save the image as a TGA file. And with this, we're done with Blender. But before we check our skin in the game, we need to modify our albedo map. But this time we need a 2D photo editing tool like Photoshop or GIMP. I always use GIMP because it's free and I'm poor as fuck. And we'll use it to open the albedo TGA file we baked a moment ago. So here's my albedo map in GIMP. I need to add an alpha channel to it, otherwise when inspecting the skin, some details might be missing due to skin wear even in factory new level. Dark values in the alpha channel preserve the skin. In order to manipulate the alpha channel in GIMP, we create a layer mask by right-clicking on the layer and choosing Add Layer Mask. Choose the white option and click Add. As I said, we need dark values to preserve the parts that wear fast. Now I don't know which parts wear faster than the others, so unless I want to create an Easter egg in my skin, I'll just color the entire thing with dark gray. If the image becomes almost transparent, that means you did it right. Oh, and if you want to learn more about CS2 skinware, then check out this video. When you're done, export the image as a TGA file. Now it's time to visit the workshop item editor. If you've never opened the editor, that means you need to go to Steam, Library, Counter-Strike 2, Settings, Properties, DLC, and check the entry that says Workshop Tools and let it download. When it's done, click on Play from Steam and choose Workshop Tools. And in the next dialog, just click on Launch Tools and wait for the game and the workshop item editor to load. So this is the workshop item editor. On the left, we have 5 folders. We'll work with the Paint Kit folder where you should create and edit your skins. The rest of the folders are self-explanatory. I'll create my skin as a custom paint job. For more information about the 9 available finish styles, do check out this video which does a deep dive into all skin types. I'll click on the custom paint job folder and then click on create and give my skin a name. No spaces, capital letters or special characters, just small letters, numbers and underscores. Now we need to load the albedo and normal maps we baked, but in order for the editor to find the files we need to copy them somewhere specific, which is this path or any of its subfolders. Otherwise the workshop item editor won't be able to find the files. So I'll navigate to the workshop item editor's repository and copy my files there. Back to the editor, I'll click on the magnifying glass icon and search for my texture. For the albedo field, I'll choose the albedo file, and for the normal, I'll choose my abnormally good normal map. And last but not least, I'll set the weapon to be the Glock and click on these buttons to disable random rotations and offsets, which are more relevant for pattern skins. Feel free to play around with the rest of the settings on your own. For me, I'm ready to inspect my skin, so I'll click on Inspect, which will prompt me to save the entry of the skin. When I save the skin, the inspection process proceeds, and here we go. Hell yeah, I made it in time. My skin is ready and life is good. Of course, please note that in order to get a skin actually accepted, you'll need to have a much better designed skin than this one. But for our purposes, this skin tutorial covered most of the basics that you need to know, and we got to try out Blender 5. So that's it folks, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my YouTube membership perks which will help you become a better CS2 skin creator. Until next time, take care and see you soon.